All right, everyone. This is SANDCAST Beach Volleyball with Tri Bourne and Travis Mewhirter and Savvy Simo back on the show today. We are zooming away. How we doing, Sav?
Hey now, what's up, everyone? I'm great. I'm in San Diego right now. It's a gorgeous day. I'm looking out my window, nothing but blue skies, and I'm just happy to be back. I haven't been around very much because, thankfully, I think you guys went back to normal in-person podcasts, right?
Yeah.
That's very exciting, and hopefully one of these days I'll be there. But haven't been able to make it work. So obviously stoked to be here for the Zoom, of course, my normal little Zoom meeting, but excited to hopefully at some point in the future get into an in-person one.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know like the way that my schedule is working out. So I left my apartment for Wapaka on July 5th, and I will not be back in that apartment until like mid-September. So I don't know the next time we're going in person either. Maybe in Atlantic City.
Are you subleasing your place? You may as well.
I mean, if you ever need to train in LA, there is a spare bedroom for you up there, and I can tell you where the key is, and you can pop in, walking distance from the beach.
Seriously, that means a lot. Honestly, might hit you up on that because that's crazy.
But yeah, because when I left, I didn't really realize how long I'd be packing for, because it was Wapaka to Belgium. And I just got back from Belgium late last night. And so I'm currently in Baltimore at the house that I grew up in. As you can see, if you guys are watching on YouTube, I got my badass wallpaper up still from my days in elementary, middle school. So then I'm driving to Atlantic City, where I will see you. And then from Atlantic City, I'm staying on the East Coast in Myrtle, because me and Adam, we just found out we're main draw for a 1-star in Bulgaria. So there's no sense in us going back to the West Coast. So we're staying East Coast, going to Bulgaria. From Bulgaria, we're going to AVP Atlanta. AVP Atlanta, we're going to Prague.
Oh my gosh.
And then Prague, we've had, have you watched the King of the Court series?
No.
So the King of the Court series is really cool. It's just so this guy named Wilco Nijland, he's Dutch, and he's been putting on these events. Huge hits, like smash hits, like King of the Court. It's super fun. All the players love it. He actually emailed me when I was in Belgium and said, if you and Adam want to play, like, we'd love to have you guys in one of our King of the Courts. So we're going from Prague to the Netherlands in Utrecht to play King of the Court. And then after King of the Court, we're flying to Chicago to play AVP. And that's the first week of September. So
You're missing the Manhattan Open and the weekend after that in between those two AVP.
Yeah. So skipping Manhattan to play Prague, because it's the only 2-star that I can play. We decided to play Belgium over Rwanda.
Yeah.
Which, judging from, I don't know if you followed everyone's Instagram stories, but it seemed like a good decision. That tournament looked insane. The points were nice, but like Belgium was great. It was awesome. We were straight into main draw, whereas Rwanda, we would have had to play like country quota. Yeah. And there was just no sense in trying to.
It's so gnarly. The country quota, really quick, briefly, what is your opinion? Because I know that there's been country quotas in like Hermosa Beach, Manhattan Beach. Like, why do they do country quotas in country where the event is? Like, I just feel like that's such a brutal way to do it.
So they do it based on the preceding and succeeding events. So people were already on the road in Stad.
Okay.
And then they were going from Stad to Rwanda. So and then people had to play country quotas in Stad. So they would have had to have done the country quotas like a month ahead of the event.
Yeah.
Which is, so when it makes sense to do it, to not have to travel to the country quota. Like if it's an independent event, like it's nothing's before it, nothing's after, they'll almost always have it at home.
Okay. That makes sense.
Because people but if people are already on the road, they just have it wherever.
They'll just do it there. Okay. Yeah. That makes more sense. I just didn't know. And I'm seeing, people flying all the way to Rwanda to do a country quota and losing. Yeah. And that's just like, I cannot even imagine doing that. Me thinking of doing this in the future, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm too broke for this type of stuff. It's just, it's a crazy thing. And it's ruthless, but that's just the way the sport is. So yeah, I'm actually glad I asked you, because I was talking to my parents about it last night, and I was like, that's just crazy. But if people are going from country to country, it makes more sense.
Right. Because then me and Adam, when we played Cam and Theo in the country quota for Russia, me and Adam were already out of the country. So we were in Bulgaria. And so if we hadn't been in Bulgaria, we would have just done the quota at home.
Okay.
But we were already on the road, and it ended up working out because we won and it was great. But and then Cam and Theo, they had another tournament right after in Ostrava. So they were already on the road anyway. So
exactly.
Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. So it's just kind of a per event basis.
Totally. All right. Well, that makes sense.
So I got a busy couple months coming up. As do you, I would think. So what's your schedule looking like? You have Atlantic City.
I mean, it's not it's like everything's condensed into one thing. It's not as busy as you'd think. So I have Atlantic City. I leave on Thursday for Atlantic City, and then got 6-man next weekend.
Nice.
Really excited for that.
Who's your squad?
So yeah, that'll be fun. And then what'd you say? Did you ask who's
your squad for 6-man?
I'm on the Horny Unicornies. It's a bunch of like coaches from Wave and stuff, and I've done it a couple times, but I've never been 21 at the event. So apparently some like baked in. I'm 22 now. I missed it when I was 21 during COVID, but no, I'm excited. I mean, I've done it a couple times, and it's just good people, good fun, and a tournament that, like, especially for me now coming into this and taking everything more seriously, it's nice to go play volleyball and not have to worry about like making money or anything like that. So it's super awesome. So I'll do that. And then I have the first weekend of August off. Might go on like a camping trip with my boyfriend or something. We're trying to figure out maybe just a little Yosemite weekend trip, or might go to Big Sur or something, just because why not? I never get to do stuff anyways. And then I have back-to-back Atlanta, Manhattan that weekend off. Last weekend of August, probably just train or maybe do something fun. And then Chicago.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's kind of, what do I do next? There's the other AVP Next Gold Series at the end of October in Florida that I might do. But yeah, and then it's like, maybe I try and go to like these FIVB things, but I have no points to do this stuff. And obviously trying to figure out partner stuff still. So just being patient and trying to just get after it in these big events that I've never gotten to play in an AVP. So hoping to qualify and, be a little qualifier grinder and get after it and try and make a name for myself and go from there. So that's why I'm staying at home, just because there's so few events. I don't have a coach or anything like that. So I'm just trying to work super hard and train 3 times a day when people ask, and be positive and make friends along the way. And it's been a really great experience so far, going to, New Orleans and Wapaka. I mean, those were incredible tournaments. And so such different atmospheres and different surfaces, and moving all over the country is so fun. So I've absolutely loved it. And look forward to the rest of summer, even if it is only 4 or 5 events, like they're big events, and it's really exciting for me.
Yeah. I actually think this is kind of a cool way for you to like start your professional career, as like 4 big events, and then a couple, like you got New Orleans and Wapaka and Atlantic City, which is basically an AVP, and you're straight into main draw. So congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. I know we made it.
It's super exciting. And you're going to love the feeling. There's like literally nothing better than just like cruising around the day of the qualifier and just sort of watching casually and training when you want to, and instead of like being in that heat of the moment. Like, even though it's like a 24 teams are straight into main draw, and like a lot of the big dogs are missing because of the Olympics. That qualifier is still crazy.
There's so many teams. And I heard for the Atlanta, isn't it like a 2-day qualifier?
Yeah.
I'm like, please, I hope I'm in the second day. Just one day.
All of them are 2-day qualifiers now.
Wow. I mean, everyone wants to play, which is awesome. So, I mean, we can talk about that. The sport's growing, and we can talk about Bally's a little bit. I mean, that seems like, in my opinion, from what I'm hearing from people, that seems like such a great opportunity for our sport to continue to grow. So what do you think about that whole thing?
Well, so it's funny. So Adam Roberts is staying with me in Maryland right now. And I was talking to him about it earlier, because when we were in Wapaka, we were talking about how in 2016, there were so few women signed up for some of the events that if you signed up, you would be directly into the main draw. And that was only 5 years ago. And now you're looking at it where we have 2-day qualifiers. The women's side is exponentially better than the men's, like just objective that you guys are way deeper than the men and way more top heavy. And so like the sport is absolutely exploding. And so there have been like no financials released. Like Donald's not releasing the financials. Bally isn't talking about the financials. So I don't know like what the number was that he sold the AVP at, but Donald bought the AVP at like the absolute seller. Like there was literally, the AVP was nothing. It was in bankruptcy. It's just sitting there delinquent. And so Donald bought it out for, I think, 2 million. And I don't know if he just kind of like lucked into the timing where he just bought the sport at this low and the tide just like swept it into this huge thing where I'd assume that he sold it for probably I mean, in his interview with Volleyball Mag, he called it a fair number. I'd put that at like no less than like 10 million, which is still probably probably like a significant loss for him for the investments that he put in, but I mean, it's grown by 500%. If that is like, say, our estimated number. And the sport's just exploding. So I think like you look at Bally's and basically, so Bally's is this enormous casino with basically bottomless pockets, which is what a sport like volleyball needs. Like the AVP, I mean, to Bally's is basically a rounding error. That's how small like the AVP is compared to like all their casinos, and like they're in the MLB and the NBA, and the NHL, and they have a TV network and they have gambling. And they're big on trying to gamify sports, which are like the three biggest things that I think volleyball needs most. Like the only reason half the people watch the NFL as much as they do is because of like fantasy football. And so I don't know like what the gamification of volleyball will look like, but I know that that's like one of the biggest imperatives that Bally seems to be emphasizing, trying to gamify the sport, get it in betting, TV network. So I'm excited for the potential of what Bally's can do with all of their resources. And Ed Ratledge also brought up a really interesting point on his Instagram that he was joking. So he put up a map of all of Bally's locations throughout the country. He's like, you're probably looking at the 2022 AVP Tour season, just going to other casinos. But and he was joking, but what would be genius about that is that the biggest expense for AVP is putting on events and building the facilities in Atlanta, building the facilities in Chicago or wherever we're going, and like getting the permits and everything. But if you own your own real estate and you just own the courts there, like you don't have to deal with permits. You don't have to deal with building the courts. It's just there. So you're taking out that cost entirely. Like the players can just stay at your hotel basically for free. So I think
what I've been hearing is, how many locations? They have like 15 locations or something like that.
Yeah, it's a lot. And probably, and like, if you look at the gaming industry is only getting bigger as it's getting legal in every state. So in terms of the amount of growth that is now possible because of this kind of merger it's pretty exciting. Of course, every time the sport changes hands, which has been pretty frequently since 2000, I feel like everyone's always like getting so excited. So at the end of the day, like you don't want Bally's to like, say if Bally's is so big that if the AVP is like not making them money, or if it's just like this bottomless pit, like they could also just drop it as quick as they picked it up. So I'm more excited than I am cautious about it because I think that the potential is there. And I think that Bally's is smart enough to see that they're probably buying the AVP at pretty low, and beach volleyball as a whole is only it's skyrocketing.
Exactly.
So I'm excited for everything they can bring to the table. And it's really interesting for you because like this will be like the only AVP you've ever known. Really. I know you've played in some qualifiers in the past, but this is like your introduction to it. And I think that you're probably going to see like this huge boom pretty soon.
Yeah, which is so, I mean, I've played in one AVP qualifier and I didn't qualify because all during this summer, I mean, when I was in high school, it was like, you're watching the AVP and it's like, those are your idols. Like those are your gods. And then you have like, now you have people like, you know, the last, not during the championship series or in COVID, but when, you know, Megan and Delaney Maple go in high school, qualify and or they have like an automatic bid, they get fifth.
Yeah.
And it's like, when I was in high school, I was like, it just definitely wasn't going to like, it just, I feel like it wasn't like that. But like you said, it's growing so much and now there's so many people. And so, you know, and I did indoor all through college. So during the summer, I was always doing indoor training. So yeah, like I've never had really the opportunity or the time even to go full beach in the summer. I always did beach in the summer in high school, but during college, it was like I'm doing summer school and I'm just lifting a ton and going to those indoor open gyms because season starts super early, starts in August. So this is definitely new for me and like obviously new for everyone. But like you said, this might be all I ever really know. And, I'm the same way as you, obviously hopeful more than, doubtful or nervous about it. I mean, my dad's he's a businessman. He loves the whole business side of things. And he's like frothing at the mouth. He is so excited because, we talk a lot about how am I going to make money and how am I going to fund myself and sponsor all these things that, you have to start thinking about. And I'm the type of person, like the business stuff kind of stresses me out. I'm like, I just want to go play and have fun and like try. I don't know how I'm gonna make it work, but that's what I want to do. But this whole thing with this Bally situation, he's like, you have no idea what this could do for you and your sport and for, getting revenue and people, you know how many more people are gonna watch if they can like bet on your say you and your partner winning the tournament or whatever. Yeah. I'm like, I didn't even think about that. So I think it's awesome. I'm hoping it works out. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, I'm sure that won't start till 2022, right? That whole thing.
Yeah, I think they'll probably just play this year out. And apparently, like there are rumors, I don't know how substantiated they are, that so you mentioned that AVP Next Gold in Florida.
Yeah.
Rumor is that they're just going to take the next off and make that an AVP.
Okay.
And which is basically what they did with Atlantic City.
I've heard rumors too. Yeah, that's like the
$100,000 tournament, 32 team main draw. Like, I mean, that's basically an AVP.
Pretty much. Yeah, exactly. So,
so whether that's, substantiated or not, that's what everybody's thinking. And so like, even if they just make it like Atlantic City, I mean, that's an AVP that makes it worth basically everyone's
going to go
play. I mean, Atlantic City is like the most stacked AVP Next in history.
Exactly. Exactly. When I first signed up, I was like, I signed up pretty early and I was like, this is awesome. The prize money's so high and there's not a ton of teams in it. And then it was like the day before they closed the thing, it was just like, everyone's in it. I was like, oh, okay, this makes a lot more sense. But, I guess it makes it even more rewarding if you can get it done and get some money. So I'm super fired up, glad to be in the main draw and excited to see where the rest of this goes. And, obviously I'm sure we'll have more conversations about this whole Bally's thing when we hear more and more comes out. Cause I feel like I don't know a ton and there's not a ton about it, but all good things for the sport right now, which is exciting for us volleyball junkies.
Yeah.
So.
And I did reach out the day that the transaction happened. I reached out to Bally's and we're going to have them on the podcast sometime in August.
Yeah, that's right.
So we'll see what they say.
Well, and I'm sure you'll do a little write-up on it too, right? When you hear more about it. Yeah. I'd love to read that as well.
So I'm interested. I mean, there's just so much with the sport that's changing. And I think like your dad said, I mean, everyone talks about beach volleyball and how it's this like untapped gold mine. Yeah. And I think that, I mean, the college game changed everything. Because I mean, basically with every sport, I mean, you look at down to tennis, golf, I mean, all the money is made at the grassroots level. And that funds basically the top. And so what the college game did is the grassroots level is exploding. Like Wapaka was the biggest Wapaka in history. Wow. There were more than 6,300 people playing in Wapaka, not to mention just the people like roaming around. Like when you're talking about like, registration fees, like $175 per grass team, parking, drinks. I mean, that's probably like $500,000 in revenue.
Oh my gosh.
And that's for one tournament. And so you're talking about, AVP America membership fees, that's recurring income stream. And you're talking about like these grass tournaments are getting huge. And that's another income stream because that's also AVP America too. And so the grassroots level is getting huge. And I think that that's where a enormous chunk of the money is made. So I think that them really investing in that bottom level and having kind of this trickle up effect it's working.
Yeah. So it's funny. I lost in the national championship finals. What day is it? July 20th. So over 2 months ago, May, June, July. Yeah. Over 2 months ago. And I still have people coming up to me saying, hey, I'm sorry about your loss. I'm like, thanks. Like, I thought we were just got over that. Like I finally, They're like, did that just happen? I'm like, what are you talking about? I lost in the beginning of May. They're like, I was watching it at dinner at the bar last night. I was like, what? So they're rerunning our college, the national championship on whatever it was on ESPN or whatever. So it like you said, the college level, like the college games, I wish they would stream more of, just the home games or whatever, more than just the national championships. But, the fact that it's still being ran and people are still watching it, I think is going to continue to blow it up. Is the AVP, they're not with Amazon Prime?
I don't think so. I think the contract with Amazon ran out in 2020. And I don't know if they tried to renew. I don't know. Maybe that was part of the thing with Bally's is that, we're not with Prime anymore. Bally's has their own TV network. So that might have been kind of why they didn't continue with Amazon. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that the AVP's contract with Amazon, it was up in 2020.
Well, hopefully whatever they're going to be streaming games on is just easy access and on TV all the time, because it's just, people talk about it and people see it. And like, this is kind of a good segue into our Olympic chat. I wonder what the numbers are on people who watch, on different sports. I feel like people love watching beach volleyball. Like that's got to be like one of the sports that people watch the most of.
Beach, literally since 1996, beach volleyball has been number one at every Summer Olympics since.
Wow.
And so it's, that's why, people always expect this Olympic boom to happen. And it's like, you talk to any of the old school guys like Dodd, Sinjin, Hav, and every time an Olympics comes out, we had Rosie on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and he's just like, all right, well, the Olympic boom's coming, right? And it's always like this really big letdown because everyone expects like the AVP to just blow up after the Olympics. But like people love watching beach volleyball.
Yeah.
And like my mom and dad, like I didn't play beach volleyball until I was 24, but we watched it in every Olympics when I was a kid because it's so fun to watch. And like my mom's a huge Carrie and Misty fan.
Yeah.
Because from watching the Olympics. But now we just need to figure out how can we keep it on TV? How can we keep the public watching it? I think that's where like a Bally's could be awesome, where not only can you watch it, but now you can bet on Savvy and Abby to upset Kristen and Taryn or whoever.
Yep.
And now we're really interested.
Exactly.
Right? Like, I'll bet on football all the time. Like I'll bet on the Lions playing the Dallas Cowboys. Like I don't care two shits about the Lions, but now I got $50 on it. Now I'm loving it.
And now you're into it. Exactly. Exactly. Wow. I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too.
Really good things.
So
do we chat about what is it? You said opening ceremonies are on Thursday? I'm so
ceremonies,
excited.
I think Thursday. And then the first serve is Saturday the 24th.
Okay. Bless you.
Thank you.
You know what I thought was interesting is looking at like the schedule. I didn't know, because isn't it like in pool play? It's like you play one match, then you have like 2 days off or something, and then
it's women play, and then men play, women, men. So it's 1 day on, 1 day off play.
Mm-hmm.
So you play, rest, and then it just goes from there. It's so slow.
So slow because we're playing tournaments where if you want to win, you have to win like 5 matches in one day. So it's crazy, but I guess it gives you more incentive to follow along with all the other teams. I've only ever watched, like, from what I can remember, is watching the women's side of the Olympics. So being more involved in the sport now, I'm excited to watch the men's side. Obviously, you know more about it than I do. But everyone knows I love my girl, Sarah Sponsel, my UCLA Bruin. So I'm curious as to what you think. Her and Kelly just absolutely crushed it right when they needed to, right at the right time. So those are my Olympic hopefuls, obviously, because I love them and they're they're young and inspiring for me and everyone else. And, I'm hoping that they can just continue their stride through the Olympics. There's a ton of teams that I want to watch and that I'm rooting for, but how can you not root for Sarah Sponsel?
I know.
She's incredible. I love the kid.
And they're like, not only is Sponsel like so fun to watch, she's just like one of the coolest chicks I've ever met, ever. Like she's awesome. And I think, so here's how I'd want to break this down. So let's pick 4 favorites to make the semifinals. So my pick to win gold would be April and Alex. And I think that the slow pace of play will do them a huge favor.
Yeah.
Because Alex is like kind of dinged up a lot. And I did a story on her a couple days ago. And when I was talking to her, she's like, I love this slow pace of play because like it gives me time to just like be fully healthy for every single match.
Every single game.
And then you have someone who's as smart as April, where like they're not going to get surprised by anyone they play. So I like April and Alex. I think Duda is the greatest player on the planet. I'm going Agatha Duda as the other medal favorite. So I go April and Alex gold, Agatha Duda silver. Sponsel and Clays either third or fourth. And gosh, that fourth team is tough because I think that Mel and Pav are just a little too cold. I don't know. They've been a little off. And I like when I pick teams to go to March Madness, like I basically don't even look at what they did anything more than a month before the tournament because it's like kind of irrelevant. I think that what you're doing now is the biggest indicator. So I actually kind of like Anouk Verger Dupre and Joanna Heidrich of Switzerland. That's my upset team to make it to the semis. So I'm going 2 American medals, 1 Brazilian medal. Swiss makes the semis as well.
So I'm in agreement with a lot of that. My question is, because I think Dude is incredible too, and I think Alex and April, again, this is going to benefit them. What do you think? I mean, there's another young girl, Tina Gradina, and her partner from Latvia. I think they beat Sarah and Kelly in, was it Shad? I think they beat them there.
Handled them pretty good.
About them?
I think they're so good. They're kind of weird though. Like in 2019, they had this like kind of average season, like decent for a couple rookies, and then they just like boom won the Olympic qualifying tournament out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then they sort of trailed off a little bit, and then they've had like 2 great tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they could beat anyone on any given day, as they've proven. But it's like hard to pick a team that like hasn't consistently finished in the top 10.
Yeah.
Because like Tina and Anastasia, like they can have a 17th as easily as they could take a bronze.
Yeah.
Actually, all right, I'm subbing out Anouk and Joanna, replacing them with Australians, Maria Faye Artacho and Taliqua Clancy. And I think they're our bronze medalists. So Australia's been super locked down with COVID stuff.
Yeah.
And so they only played, I think, 13 events in the whole Olympic qualification period. And just to put that in perspective, Japan's home team, Miki Ishii and Megumi Murakami, they played 26. So they played everything. And these Australians just played 13. And they basically medaled every time they played. I think like half the Olympic qualification events they played, they medaled. And they run this offense, like really option heavy offense. And they actually, so I had Tyler Whittison of USA Volleyball send me stats on the most effective option teams in the world. And you would think that it's Kelly and Sarah who option more than any other team in history. But the most effective team at side out efficiency is 1, April and Alex, and 2, the Australians.
Wow.
And
because I figured it would be, sorry, I was muted. I was trying to talk to you and it yelled at me that I was muted. There's a car driving by, but I figured it would be Kelly and Sarah Sponsel.
So Kelly and Sarah attempt the most options of any team ever, men's or women's.
Okay.
But in terms of
side out, oh my gosh, wow.
In terms of side out, like kill percentage on those side outs, April and Alex are 1, and the Australians are 2. But I mean, Kelly and Sarah, they have more option kills than anyone, but they're in terms of like their percentage rate, they're not the highest. But obviously, I think that just the threat of it is what makes them so good, because I think Kelly is absolutely incredible with that option, and that's what just makes him so dynamic. And also, everyone gives so much, like Kelly deserves a lot of credit for that, but Sarah's passing makes all of that possible. Her passing is it's absurd. and maybe the most underrated skill of anyone in the world.
Yep. 100%. I think that I'm excited to watch that pool play out because it's Sarah Sponsel and Clays are in a pool with Gardina and her partner, and then they have Anna, Patricia, and Rebecca.
Yeah,
and I feel and they just did super well in
Stad.
In Stad too. So I think that's going to be interesting. Do they take top 3 out of pool?
Top 3.
That'll be interesting how that all plays out.
Yeah,
I don't know if I can. I think Alexander will do super well, and I have to root. Like I am going to root for. You're doing it based on math. I'm doing it based on just pure willpower. Console plays. I would like to see Mel and Sarah do well. I know they're Canadian, but they're on the tour, and I'm sure I don't know them personally, but I'm sure friends of a lot of people. I also I just like watching Brandy play. I think she's such a stud, so I'd like to see them do well. I want everyone to do well. I want everyone to do great. But
me and you are really similar.
So yeah, I'm just fired up. But what do you think for the men's side? Obviously, I don't know as much, but it's funny. My claim to fame is when I went to U21 trials back in the day, I went to China and I met Andy and Christian.
Nice.
And I'm like, oh, I know them. I met them. People have no idea who I am, but they were super nice. So do you think, I know they had a tough finish in Shad, but do you think they're the ones to win it, or do you think someone can give them a run? What do you think?
So if I'm setting Vegas odds, if Bally's appoints me as the head odds maker of beach volleyball in the Olympic Games, I'm actually putting Qatar, Sharif Samba and Ahmed Tijan as my number one favorite. Because before this year, they had never made a final together, and then they won the first event in Doha, took a 5th at the 4-star in Doha, made back-to-back finals in Cancun.
Yeah.
Made the finals in Sochi, and made the finals again in Stad. And so
they're killing it.
And so they're basically doing what Anders and Christian did in 2018, where they're doing it
at the right time.
But they're doing it at the right time. And so teams haven't been able to figure it out. Whereas you look at Anders and Christian, and people have completely changed the way they play them. So for the last 2 years, Christian Swarm has gotten every single serve for 2 straight years. And he's actually the number 1 side out player percentage wise in the world.
Wow.
And so and part of that was when Christian passes Sponsel, everything's perfect. Yeah. Anders was named the best setter in the world.
Best setter. Yeah.
And then, so now everyone's serving Anders every ball, and which is kind of a change of pace. And so what happens when you're a blocker, you're getting served every ball.
You're running up.
You're running up, and Anders just started jump serving. So now Anders is siding out every ball. He's running up every time. He's jump serving. That takes a toll. And I know the Olympics are slow, but even if you go 3 and you're doing that, it's exhausting. And so you look at, and Christian is not nearly as good of a setter as Anders. He bump sets most balls. And so you can see some of them just aren't consistently in the same spot.
Yeah.
And so Anders has had trouble siding out obviously they're still, I think you have to put them as the number 1 team in the world.
Yeah.
But people have changed the way they played them, and they haven't really had enough time to adjust back.
Okay.
And so I would go Norway as number 2 behind Sharif and Ahmed. Mm-hmm. Russia, Oleg Stoyanovsky and Vyacheslav Krasilnikov as my number 3.
You just know everyone. How are you spitting out these last names? I couldn't even pronounce. I'm I can't even pronounce. I don't want to butcher their name.
Sav, let me tell you, I knew that I had a problem when I no longer needed to check the spellings of these Russian players. I was like, this is.
I'm in too deep.
I need another hobby. And then my 4th semifinalist, I'm going to go with the Czech Republic's Andrej Perusik and David Schweiner. And they've come on pretty hot recently.
Okay. I like that you're basing it off of the most recent chunk of time or finishing. I think that just makes the most sense. I mean, you got to be peaking at the right time, and you got to be figuring it out at the right time. So I think that's super important. What do you think about our U.S. teams? I'm so excited to watch them.
Me too. I mean, I think like one, you can never count out. I will never bet against Phil Dahlhauser to do it.
I know.
Especially on the biggest stages. Cause like, Phil, is he gonna, get jacked up for AVP Seattle? Maybe not. Is he gonna get going for the Olympic Games? Cause I mean, Phil knows. I mean, when we had him on the podcast, he was like our 5th guest. Yeah. And we were like, why are you still doing this? And he's like, winning never gets old. And he goes, but people are measured, like all the greats in every sport are measured by the big ones. So quarterbacks are measured by Super Bowl wins. Pitchers are measured by World Series wins, because beach volleyball players, you have world champs and you have the Olympics. And he goes, you look at guys like Ricardo, he's performed on the biggest stages. Alice Jones performed on the biggest stages. So Phil, like, he loves these big stages. And so this is where, and like, this is his last go around. Like,
he's going off. So you're saying he's going off.
So I'm not betting against Phil.
Yeah.
And I think that Taylor Crabb is probably the best defender in the world. And so it's just so hard to score on him. But like, can they be consistent enough to make it all the way to the semifinals and medal rounds of an Olympic Games? Because they'll have matches where they look like totally unbeatable.
Yeah.
And then they'll go, they'll lose in the first round of AVP Austin to Gabe Ospina and Paul Lottman.
Yeah.
And you're like, how's this happening?
Yeah.
And so do I bet against Phil? Never. Do I bet against Taylor? Also never. So
hey, I agree. Yeah. Well, I'm just fired up to watch. I don't know. I'll just be glued on the couch watching. And I want to learn. I mean, I want to be, by the next podcast, I want to know these names better than you. That's my goal. After that's how much I want to be watching and being inspired. So I know I'm fired up for it, and I'm fired up for your next couple of weeks, months, even.
Yeah, I don't even know. It's crazy, and Tri's hilarious because when me and Tri first started the podcast, I had never left the country.
Yeah.
I had never made main draw, like never really done anything. And now he's just like, now you're the world tour guy and I'm at home. It's funny.
It's awesome though. It's exciting. And hopefully, we get a little interview action in Atlantic City. That'd be really fun. I'm really excited for that.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Me too. I'm excited to see you out there. I'm excited to watch you play again. I had fun watching you and Ab compete in
I know. I wish I watched you more. I just feel like the timing wasn't awesome. And by the time you get to the second day, it's like when you have to play that many games, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have a hard time I never know where anyone's playing. I never know the schedule of anything. I'm just like, I go up and I report my score and they're like, you're playing at this time on this court against these people. I'm like, okay,
right.
I'm starving. I need to go get some food. I need to get out of the shade. I need to eat some pickles so I don't cramp and then be on the court an hour. So it's hectic. So I'm excited for, maybe a little bit of a slower pace for the Atlantic City one, and no pool play. That means no pool play, right? You just go double limb.
Double limb. Great job, AVP. Great job.
I need to see who I play. Ooh, I don't know what seed I am. I think I'm like 18 or something, but I'll figure it out.
But I do want to commend the AVP big time. So I don't know if they heard the massive complaints about the pool play system, which is useless and stupid in AVP Next, but they credit to them. They saw New Orleans was an 84 team pool play tournament where pool play was pretty much just useless because it only cut it down to 50 some teams, and people were playing 5 matches in one day, and both finals were disasters because people were cramping.
Yeah.
People were mad about pool play in Wapaka because kind of the same reasons, and so they went 32 team main draw, made it a really professional looking event in Atlantic City. So I would just gotta commend them on changing the format, double limb. Everyone loves it. Best format possible. We're having qualifiers for AVP Next, which I think is awesome. Because then that's only going to make the next tier that much more attractive for people to play to get points. So you're out of the qualifiers for the AVP Next. So I think now we're just having this trickle down effect all the way to whatever level of AVP Next. And so good on the AVP for making that change. I think it's awesome.
100%. I don't know anything. I have nothing to really base it on. They tell me go play pool play. And I'm like, go play pool play. Go play 5 matches. And one day I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go play 5 matches. So I'm excited just to get a new feel for this and just get after it. But what a day today is. Lucky to have you. Thank you for having me. I just feel great after all these. I was so tired today, and I feel revived.
Just chatting volley, Sav.
Hey, only makes you feel better. Well, thank you so much. You're absolutely the best, and I look forward to seeing you in a couple of days.
Yeah, I will see you soon, Sav.
Perfect. Thank you so much. You're the best. Talk to you soon.
Shoots.
See ya.